So I'll make a long story short. Adam Kokesh, the anti-war activist, knows Carlos Arredondo, the arch fraudster of the Boston bombing. He's known him for a long time, and he knows him very well, even going so far as calling him a personal friend. Here's Adam Kokesh and Carlos Arredondo attending a press conference at the National Press Club together. And here's Adam Kokesh's blog. Here he admits Carlos Arredondo is a, quote, personal friend. So, my question to Kokesh is this. You've known Carlos Arredondo since at least 2007. You've been at many protests together. You've called him your personal friend. So why, oh why, haven't you said one word about Carlos since the 2013 Boston bombing? Carlos, your dear personal friend, was paraded around as a hero, and you haven't said one word? You even posted a video right after the Boston bombing with Carlos's picture as the thumbnail. Yet, nowhere in that video did you mention Carlos by name and your relationship to him. And oh, is that video ironic. Let's just hear what Kokesh has to say.
The Boston bombing, the Boston massacre, punctured that bubble. Is a different kind of puncturing of the bubble. Because this is one that they can use. They love this. They can use the propaganda that they get out of this to reinforce nationalism, tribalism, and the rally round the leader effect that they love whenever something like this happens.
All right, let's go.
So it's been about 5 years since the Boston bombing. Why have you been so quiet about your pal Carlos? Perhaps you could give us some insight into who this man really is, what his motivations are, why he would commit a traitorous act on behalf of the U.S. government while posing as an anti-war, anti-government activist, and how he was recruited, maybe, to pull off that stunt. For those of you who aren't familiar with Adam Kokesh, he's the anti-war protester who is seemingly arrested every other week. Now, to set the record straight, I'm all for protesting these unjust and unconstitutional wars. But over the years, many people have questioned Kokesh's over-the-top antics, labeling him as a COINTELPRO agent, guiding the anti-war movement while maintaining a secret relationship with the military. And his relationship with Carlos Arredondo pretty much seals the deal. If you don't know the full story of Carlos Arredondo, to quickly summarize, this is who Carlos Arredondo really is. In August 2004, Arredondo lit a United States Marines van on fire after 3 Marines came to his door informing him that his son Alexander was killed in Iraq. In the process of setting the van on fire, he set himself on fire. When Carlos became a national hero, the story of the van was altered. Now the media has been caught lying, claiming that Carlos set his own van on fire, not the U.S. Marines.
Today, even the undisputed facts of the van incident are morphing into a more sympathy-evoking pro-Carlos story. In a 2013 interview for the Tico Costa Rica Times, Carlos said that it was his van that he set on fire. At first I thought this was just a typo, but then the Boston Occupier and Univision's Fusion reported the same thing, as did the woman who interviewed Michael Mayo about his 10,000-word Carlos Arredondo love fest in the Sun Sentinel.
Cowboy hat-wearing Carlos Arredondo is best known for being photographed rushing in to help the victims of the Boston Marathon bombing in April. But in South Florida, he may be remembered as the grieving father who set his van on fire after learning about the death of his son, who was killed in Iraq.
Even Amy Goodman of Democracy Now! Said the van belonged to Carlos at the end of her Boston bombing interview with Carlos and Melida.
When Carlos learned he lost his son when the Marines came to his door, he set his van on fire.
And in her article, Searching for Peace at the Boston Marathon Bombing, she says it as well. This is the same article with the picture of the magical, extra bloody pantalones. The problem with Amy jumping on this bandwagon is Carlos very clearly told Amy and the world back in 2006 that it was the military van that the Marines arrived in that he attacked.
Can you talk about that day?
Marine casualty team came to my house, they asked them to leave. I walk out with a hammer, 5-pound hammer, to pretty much ask them to leave my house, otherwise I destroy the van. And at that time, I walk out with 5 gallons of gasoline, a propane torch, and I start destroying the U.S. Marine van.
2 days after the incident, Carlos was visited by 2 officers in his hospital room. There, he admits that the FBI and Homeland Security took over his case and everything was taken care of.
After the van attack incident, Carlos woke up in the hospital 2 days later with 2 strangers by his bedside.
Also, when I wake up in the hospital, I wake up with 2 people that was looking at me.
Could this be when Carlos was recruited for what they planned to do in... Aside from his hospital bills, he thought he was in a lot of trouble.
These 2 well-dressed officers was there, and this case was took over by the FBI and also the Homeland Security.
When I was in the hospital, I thought I was going to be ended up in Guantanamo because, I pretty much target a U.S. government property and all that was taken care.
After my son died, President Bush signed a executive order giving the citizenship to the parents of Sosa's daughter who died in the war in Iraq. I received the first one granted to a parent with the help of Senator Kennedy. Okay.
Make sure you let that sink in. Carlos, still an illegal alien at the time, wakes up to the FBI and Homeland Security by his bedside. There will be no deportation, no Guantanamo Bay, no charges for destroying government property in the rescue that followed. His hospital bills are waived as well, and somehow, unemployed Carlos flies first class to Maine with his wife and mother for his son's funeral. To top it all off, Carlos then receives the very first U.S. citizenship granted to the parent of a soldier killed at war. What might someone agree to in exchange for such leniency and generosity?
If you want a detailed analysis of Carlos's activities during the Boston bombing, go watch Betsy McGee's video. So I ask you again, Adam Kokesh, who is Carlos Arredondo really? And for someone with a big mouth, why are you so quiet?